Hello and welcome back for episode 19 of the NoobieDentist Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Omid Azami. I'm recording this intro from Australia. I just moved down to Melbourne a couple days ago and just getting settled in and waiting for my dental license to come in so I can start looking for work and hopefully land something pretty soon and get going again. So over the next few weeks, since I have a little bit more time on my hands, I'm going to be focusing on the podcast a little bit more and trying to increase the frequency of which I release episodes. I have a fair few recorded, so I'm trying to release 2 episodes per week for the next few weeks to get caught up a little bit here. I want to thank everyone who's been supporting the podcast. We've been doing pretty well, and the numbers have been steadily growing. The downloads are increasing week by week, and it's been downloaded in 46 countries now around the world, which is pretty humbling. So I do want to thank everyone for their support, and as usual, please do reach out to me on Instagram at NoobieDentist if you have any tips or suggestions on how to improve the show, or if you have any recommendations for any guests that you'd like to see featured on the show as well. In this episode, I have Dr. Ryan McCall out of Indiana, a fantastic dentist who's doing things his way, and pretty interestingly, actually. So he has several offices under the McCall Dentures name, and he basically runs out of 2 chairs and just does extractions, implants, and dentures. He has a model of low-end and high-end dentures, which is pretty cool, and it suits his customer base really well. He lectures and is actually lecturing this upcoming week at the Townie meeting for Dental Town. So if you are attending, if you do speak to him, please say hi for me if you've heard this before the conference starts. So without further ado, we'll jump into the episode. I hope you enjoy it, and we'll see you next time.
Hello, and welcome to the NoobieDentist Podcast, the safe place for newbie dentists to connect, collaborate, learn, and grow. The NoobieDentist Podcast aims to provide high-quality and high-value content for all the newbie dentists out there. With your host, Dr. Omid Azami.
So, Dr. McCall, I just wanted to sort of start off and, talk about your background a little bit, why you sort of got into dentistry in the first place. And then as we get through that, I want to sort of see sort of your journey, what your journey's been like, transitioning, from dental school into private practice. And, it seems like you're a multiple practice owner now in a pretty unique environment and practice style. So I'm sure we'll get into that in a little bit more detail later in the show. So if you can just start us off with your background story, and we'll sort of jump off from there.
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up in Effingham, Illinois, so kind of South Central Illinois, and I went to Indiana University for undergrad, and then I went to dental school in Chicago. So I had a good experience. It was a good dental school, and we had some really good professors, so I enjoyed it. And then after dental school, I moved to Colorado. My wife and I moved to Durango, Colorado for a year, and it was so nice, and we skied a ton. And we really enjoyed it, but it's so far from family. So we moved to Fort Collins, Colorado, and I bought an office up there from an older gentleman and he was just doing replacement dentures only. Yeah. And Colorado is very competitive, and there are a lot of dentists there. So I tried to switch it over to a general dentistry practice to make it more family-oriented. And I realized kind of early on that I needed to find a niche and kind of make myself a little bit more unique, especially in Colorado. So we switched to the denture thing, and then it just kind of took off from there. So
that's pretty cool. So
it's been a wild ride.
Yeah. So so what year did you graduate from dental school?
I graduated in 2008, so I guess I've been out almost 10 years now. And we ended up selling that practice. A friend from Dental Town found an office in Indiana that was only doing immediate dentures, and he was working out of like 2 chairs, 2 days a week, and he put the practice on the market, and it sat there for almost 3 years, and no one was interested. And one of my friends was like, "Oh, this would be a perfect opportunity for you." So I flew to Indy on a Thursday, and we bought the practice on a Friday.
Nice.
And then flew back on a Saturday. Yeah. So it was a pretty crazy trip. But my wife's from St. Louis, and I grew up in Illinois, so I wanted to get closer to family because we have 4 kids. Yeah. So we came back to Indiana, and I'm back home again in Indiana. And now we're working on our 4th office, and hopefully our 5th pretty soon. Yeah, so it's growing really well. And I tried to keep the Colorado practice, and I thought I could manage it from afar, but that's tricky, just too far. Oh, so tricky. So we ended up I got a couple offers on the practice, and I found a prosthodontist who was really nice, and he was going to keep the whole staff.
Oh,
and his offer is a little bit lower, but I liked him really well. So I actually flew back from Indy to Colorado for a full year. I commuted. And I would work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday in Colorado and come back here and work Thursday and Friday.
That's awesome, yeah. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and then I'd fly out on Sunday and do it again. Wow. It was like the longest year of my whole life.
That's tough.
But he came in and took care of the staff and everything. It's a good transition.
Yeah.
So worked out in the end, but it was a long year. Yeah. I learned a lot.
For sure. So in terms of like doing like dentistry pretty much, like when did you realize like you're actually interested in doing that? Like were you doing that a lot in school? Because I know nowadays it's hard to find. I mean, like and like I would study dentistry in Australia, University of Melbourne. Like we only did like 2 denture cases like the whole 4 years that I was in school. And then
really?
I know like most programs in the US now and Canada, maybe they're not doing like that many dentures either for patients. Maybe there's going to be some variation here and there. But so was that something that in dental school you're like, oh, I really like it, I enjoy doing this and this is what I want to do? Or is it something that kind of when you moved to Colorado just fell in your lap and you kind of enjoyed it?
That's a great question. In dental school, one of my professors gave me a really difficult case. And looking back, she was probably like testing me, but it went really well. And the patient loved it. And then I found an office in Durango where I was, and they were doing like affordable style same day dentures. Yeah. And I did that for a while, and the money was really good, but I just didn't enjoy it. So I knew there had to be a better way. And when we found the other office, started making a little bit higher end dentures, and the process kind of changed a little bit. But yeah, I mean, in dental school, I did a fair amount. I was fortunate, but I'm, interviewing some new grads right now that have never done a lower denture. Yeah. And most have never done a molar endo.
Yeah, no.
So it's kind of discouraging.
The dental education's changing.
It's hard, man.
Yeah, for sure. And it's tough too, because like we're not getting as much experience in dental school, and then we're graduating into like a competitive like workforce where like a lot's demanded, and you got to try and keep a lot of things in-house, and you don't have the experience necessarily. So it's a little bit of a tricky balancing act to like stay within your comfort zone, but also like try and push it a little bit to try and, do more procedures and trying things out. So with the denture practices, now that you're in Indiana, so is this pretty much like all you do? Like people come in with like terminal dentition and you just offer like full clearances and dentures, or I know you're doing some implants and stuff as well. But do you do like, when's the last time you did like a class 2 composite?
Gosh, I can't remember. 8 years ago,
yeah.
Maybe. I got another doc that works for me part time, and he's very good at restorative. Okay. So I realized early on that I wasn't meant for kind of like the restorative bread and butter practice, and some of my friends like really enjoyed doing that. And it just wasn't for me. I think of my personality and my skill set, dentures were just a natural fit. Yeah. So I really started to thrive when I kind of focused on that only and dove into it. And I made some bad dentures early on because, like you're saying, you don't have a lot of training coming out. So I just made them and found some really good lab techs to work with. And we've been fortunate to find some awesome lab techs here. So we've got our own central lab, and mostly dentures, extractions, implants. I don't think I've done a crown in about 8 years either, and it was on my mom. Yeah. And I use gold, so I would not be the go-to guy in zirconia or anything like that.
That's pretty cool. And so obviously,
it's been really cool, and I enjoy it.
So we connected over Instagram, and you have a really like booming like Instagram page with McCall Dentures. So when did that sort of start? Is that did you start it off initially as like when you opened up when you moved back to Indiana and started those practices as like a sort of like a marketing play, and then it's kind of like exploded? Because it seems like obviously with Instagram pages is like kind of like 2 streams. I think it's like one is like clinicians posting their clinical stuff just to connect with the dental community, and then there's like dental practices, promoting to patients and like showing cases to acquire patients. So how's that sort of been for you, like the Instagram thing for your practice? Is that when you initially started out as like a marketing thing, and now you have a lot of dentists from like around the world like asking you clinical questions as well? How's that experience been?
So I actually started on Facebook, and this would have been 5-6 years ago. We were in Indiana. Back when organic interaction was free and you could post a picture and get 600 likes and not have to pay for it. And that just exploded. I mean, I worked probably 5 years in Colorado and had like 900 followers. And once we moved to Indiana, I think we're up to over 18,000, almost 20,000 at our ND location, and then like 5 at another one. And I mean, we've got an office that's not quite open yet, and we've already got 1,000 followers for that, and that's all patient-based stuff. The Instagram I was kind of hesitant on. I actually didn't think it would work for anything, but now I'm finding out that it really does. So I've been kind of diving into that hardcore the last year or so, and I got invited to an Instagram conference out in LA last summer.
Oh, no way!
So I got to fly out and meet some really, really cool, entrepreneurs and stuff.
Yeah, that's
so
incredible.
Really interesting.
That's awesome. So it seems like you just crush it at everything you're doing. So,
a lot of social media.
Yeah. So can you just for like a lot of listeners who are like new associates and like looking for different types of positions, because I know like doing dentures may necessarily not be like the most appealing for a lot of people. They want to do like more like cosmetic dentistry or like aesthetic dentistry. So what's like the biggest pros and cons of being in the type of practice that you have right now? If like an associate's listening and they want to find that type of practice or open that kind of practice down the line for themselves.
I think the main issue is probably patient management and personality. I think coming out, I wanted to do a lot of cosmetic stuff too. Yeah. So I did some veneer cases and I did a bunch of full mouth rehabs and kind of got that out of my system and realized that that's a lot of work, and it can sometimes be high overhead. And if you have a remake on a full mouth case, it's going to be a serious remake. Yeah. So the denture thing just appealed to me in that regard. But it's been kind of difficult to find associates in the state just because, they're, like you said, they're not interested in doing dentures. They really want to do, full mouth rehab and veneers and cosmetic things and Invisalign. So it's a little bit different approach, but my main issue has been finding help and guys that are interested in doing dentures and making quality dentures and working with that patient base. So it's a different patient base. But they're also the most rewarding cases you're ever going to do.
Sure.
You know? Like you deliver some immediates on. I had a kid this morning, 30 years old, and looked like a new man.
Yeah.
He was crying and stuff. It was just awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah,
that's different.
Yeah. I've been lucky enough. I haven't done a whole lot of dentures this year. I've done maybe like 3 or 4 cases where I've done like some lower, some full clearances and done that whole immediate thing. And it is an awesome like experience, like start to finish. Because I even like on the clinical side, like obviously I enjoy like a lot of people like doing extractions and doing all that part of it, and then the restorative side with like the dentures and getting the occlusion and everything and done right. And so I was hoping for the next half of the podcast we can maybe talk about a little bit about like the clinical side of it, because I know just for my own interest, and I'm sure I asked questions that I think other people are curious about as well. So if you don't mind, maybe like talk us through like a case, like just very briefly, like start to finish. So like a patient presents, they've got, pretty bad state of dentition. They got some mobile teeth, some perio and some caries, and, they're interested in like full clearances. So what's your like thought process when you're like doing your treatment planning and like the steps, like the communication with the lab, more specifically, to get like a case back that actually like fits well and doesn't need a whole lot of adjustment up front. Just as a bit of a background, I did a case a couple months ago. A patient had an existing full upper, and I did a full like a lower clearance and gave her some dentures, and the bite came back like so off, and it was like I couldn't even like chair side fix it. So I had to. It was basically like a remake. Oh, no. So I got stuck with that, and so the poor patient didn't have basically like lower teeth for like a couple of weeks until the new ones were made. So. It was like a really bad experience, but a good learning experience nonetheless. So for someone who's been doing it like day in, day out for the past, several years, what's like your main like points that you think you can help out like a new grad to improve their immediate?
We're fortunate. No, sure. We're fortunate that we have our own lab, and I think we have some of the best lab techs in the state. So they can usually help me out with the remakes. But, when you first get rolling, it's kind of difficult because you've got the lab fee and you got the remake and you have a disgruntled patient and, it's complicated. Yeah. So I'm actually lecturing at Dental Town Conference this year. Yeah. And I'm going to show some more clinical stuff on kind of what we do in the process and so forth. And I just visited Iowa Clark's campus out in Buffalo a couple weeks ago. And that was so cool. Yeah, they were really nice and a bunch of good guys. So I really enjoyed the trip. But I'd keep it pretty simple. And I think honestly, like if you take a good impression and get a good bite and do a try-in, like 99% of the time you're going to be fine as long as you have the patient management skills to handle, difficult cases and frustrated patients and things like that. So for your remake patient, she's probably frustrated, and it's going to be difficult as a new grad, especially as an associate in the practice with a patient like that. So you have to just kind of put yourself in their shoes.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And most of our patients come in, they know they need dentures or a partial or, maybe a flexible partial or cast metal or something. But if they need, restorative, a class 2 or a gold crown or something like that, I've got a lot of friends who do that sort of thing. So we refer with them. And then, if they need big stuff, we'll refer to an oral surgeon.
Yeah.
We've got probably 5 or 6 we really like working with in Indy. So I'm a small niche guy.
That's awesome, and you're winning at that game. So with your extractions, do you normally do it like under sedation, or are you just doing it under local most of the time? How's that process for you?
We do oral sedation. I had looked into getting IV sedation, and it would definitely help. It's a lot of training if you're a newbie.
For sure.
I'd look into it, but for me, it just wasn't going to make sense, because if our patients need an IV, I just send them to my good friend who's an oral surgeon, and he does nice work. But for someone who wants to keep everything in house, that might be worth looking into. I know the requirements are pretty rigorous, but you gotta be real careful with IVs, and oral sedation's pretty safe. So I took the docs course, and it was good.
Yeah. So oral.
Most people do just fine.
Do you do oral with like nitrous together, or you just do oral by itself?
No, just oral by itself. I noticed that usually the kids too, especially, but some people would puke with the nitrous. I've kind of gotten away from that. And I'd say all of our patients do just fine. I've only had one patient that, couldn't get adequately comfortable. So we just kind of set him up and, referred to the oral surgeon.
Okay.
So.
That's very good. And
But if you're young and you want to keep it, I would recommend doing IV if you can.
Yeah. That's something that I've been looking into. I did my, so in Canada here, for like doing moderate sedation, so like oral, and if you want to mix it with like nitrous, it's like a sort of like a weekend course you got to do. But the IV one's a bit full on, and it's quite expensive as well. It's about like $20,000 to get like that permit and go through the training for it. Like the risk reward, like you mentioned as well, it's a little bit of like generally it's safe, obviously with the new medications and everything like that, but there is still that the risk, and a lot of people don't want that liability on their shoulders, right? So. Yeah. So you mentioned, so you said your practices are like, you work at like 2 Chairz, is that right?
Yeah, that's my nickname. 2 Chairz with a Z, like the rapper.
2 Chairz. So how's that workflow? Because I guess, do you guys do like you don't have like a hygiene program really, do you? Is it just like patients come in, they get the treatment and they kind of head off? Or do you have like a sort of like a recall program where patients come back with their dentures and you review everything every so often?
I do my own hygiene, so if they need a prophy, it's usually on lower teeth. And if they got really nice teeth, I've got 3 or 4 friends that do hygiene and restorative, so we work with those on those cases. I just referred a couple this morning, but he's a good guy, and he does better restorative than I do. So I look at their age first, to be honest with you, and if they're young, I try to keep teeth as often as possible. Even if they want to take them all out, I try to talk them out of it. And then if, it's a terminal dentition case, then I'll take care of it. But we try to hold on to the teeth, and if they need restorative and things like that, I'm happy to refer to some good friends who also don't enjoy doing dentures. So it works out really well.
So it's nice. Well, so like you're basically a denture specialist in your town. So if people just refer to you and then you refer back and stuff, it's pretty cool.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, it's kind of surgical process, and I've got a good friend who's in surgical process residency right now, and that's what I would love to have join us, would be someone who could place implants, and then we could start milling and things like that. But that's probably 2 years down the road.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, that's pretty cool. So what's your plans for like the business side of things? It seems like you have a pretty good model of like a low overhead. And just keeping everything in house, and you have your own lab. You got the 4th practice on the way. What's like the long-term vision for McCall Dentures?
Our plan is probably to open 1 or 2 offices every year for about the next 10 years, then see where we're at. So, finding help is going to be the key. I want to teach some new grads and how to make dentures. I don't want to bash on dental schools or anything, but they're just not getting the experience
I
right
totally
now.
agree.
So I think I can help in that regard. And a lot of them that I meet too, they think that dentures might be kind of, I don't want to say beneath them, but underneath like where they want to be.
It's like old school dentistry, maybe they think.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I have an old school mindset. It's like I could work out of 2 barber chairs and be totally fine with it. And, a lot of guys want to have 14 ops or 40 ops, and that's fine. I mean, that's cool, but we're a little bit different model, so it's a bit more sustainable, and I think it's a little bit easier to open up multiple locations.
So do you want?
So we're low cost office, high quality dentures. That's kind of our
way to go. And is this going to be like all within Indianapolis, or you want to go like nationwide with it, or?
We're going to stay in Indiana right now, and we had looked into franchising.
Yeah,
it's going to be a lot, so I think we're going to work on the strategic business plan and just kind of dial it down to Indiana and the Midwest right now, and then see where we're at in a few years. Because I have 4 kids, and it's hard to travel, and it's really difficult to manage multiple offices in many states. So the major hurdle for us, is going to be centralizing our billing and getting a call center and all that fun stuff.
Get the systems in place.
We're working on that right now.
That's
so
awesome.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I was talking to a friend the other day that you have to have identical systems at every office, right? And you have to make sure that it's all at the same quality. So we're going to try and scale appropriately and kind of go at the right rate, find the right people to work with. So
that's great. Because I think in the US, there's like another chain. Obviously, we don't have it in Canada. It's like Affordable Dentures and Implants. So is that that's like a nationwide one, right? Does similar type of service, or is that different to what you guys are probably like looking to do?
Yeah, they're huge. I mean, they have, I don't know how many offices, but they're based out of North Carolina, and they are huge. And then Aspen Dental is another office. And they're, I believe, even bigger. Yeah. So I probably wouldn't last a day in a corporation. I'm a little bit different personality, eccentric, and, it would be hard for me to do something like that. But we're a little different style. When I moved here, in Colorado, I was mostly doing, high-end premium dentures and only high-end premium dentures. And it was going very well. But when we moved here, I realized that, there are so many like 20 and 30-year-old kids with just broken down teeth and bombed out molars and all that, I wanted to offer an alternative. So I did some pricing structure, and we kind of tiered the system and realized that, some of these full mouth cases, just to get these kids in a denture. But it's actually a better option, and we still make a very, very nice denture and can compete with them on prices. So the materials we use in our dentures for our economy option, are probably the same stuff you're getting from a lab for probably about the same price I'm charging patients, to be honest with you. And I think it's just as good as quality, if not better.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I'm happy to do that as well.
Great service and a great business model. That's awesome. And so you mentioned it seems like you're pretty active like with the dental town and stuff. When did you start doing all that, being involved with the townie meetings and all that?
Oh, that was probably 18 years ago when I was an undergrad.
Oh, really?
So I would have been a freshman in undergrad. Yeah, actually, Howard Goldstein, he invited me to like an email group a long time ago with some older dentists, and we stayed in touch. And then those were the early days, so like a lot of people posted on there, and I just read everything. Yeah. And then I graduated and just started putting my cases on there. And, I got kind of torn apart initially. Some lab technicians, they weren't super excited about the quality of my work. And I get it, I was just trying to get better. So I kind of took it with, a grain of salt. And it really actually helped us get much better. So our quality is top notch now at this point. And it's been a learning curve, but we've kind of, progressively gotten better and found the right people. And like you said, we're working on the systems right now. So once we get that all in place, we kind of see where it goes.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was lucky enough. I'm a big fan of Howard Fran as well, and I was lucky enough he came to Toronto a while back, and we got to meet him, and we actually recorded an episode together as well. So he's been doing great stuff with Dental Town, and it's great that you're active on there.
Yeah, so he is awesome.
When's that next townie meeting? So I can. Is it coming up pretty soon or?
I think it's in April. I'll send you a link and you can post it on there.
Absolutely.
But it's in April in Orlando.
Yeah, sure.
And it's going to be great. I'm looking forward to it. So I'll probably show some of the Smile Design Kit from Ivoclar.
Yeah.
So I think it's a nice product, and a lot of their materials are top notch. So we Ivo-base all of our premium dentures and colorize the gums and use some really nice teeth.
Okay,
So
great.
we can go high end and low end, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
I kind of picked that up from Van Shoot Company. I thought that was genius. You know, if you think of Vans, they were at that Instagram conference that I went to, and I really learned a lot from their CEO. And they're just so smart. You know, they can sell high end and low end.
Yeah.
And we're just trying to do that as well. So.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's keep up the amazing work. The McCall Dentures page has been a hit. You're very active on there, and you always post some great cases, and a lot of people are getting a lot of value from it. So, like a lot of dentists, and I'm sure the patients are seeing it as well, and it's enticing them to come in and change their smile and improve their quality of life and their confidence and everything too. So, I think dentures are a pretty important option, because not everyone's going to be able to afford full mouth rehab or like implants and all that. So it's really a nice economical option to fix up a smile. So I think it's going to be a very successful model for you, and it's just cool. It's cool to speak to you and see how you're being so niche and doing such a specific task like over and over, and just improving it and refining the business model around that. So I think it's something that I hadn't really thought about really, as because like I mentioned, not many people wanted to get into dentures or think about getting into dentures. But I think it's, even in Toronto or in Canada, it can be pretty successful, like a similar model, because not many people are doing it or offering that. And just do you guys have a denturist over there as well, or is that not really?
Only a handful of states over here have denturists. Yeah. But I know in Canada, you guys have quite a few. Yeah, it's quite
a few. And I think a lot of people, a lot of general dentists don't even do dentures anymore, just refer them out. So, so it's interesting. But I think it's something that I like to just try and learn everything to like a decent level. So I've been doing a few cases, like I mentioned, and seeing your work on Instagram really has been helpful. So it's been awesome to chat with you. I'll check out the Townie meeting I don't know if I can attend. I think last year they live streamed it, if I'm not mistaken. So that was pretty cool. I think I was able to watch a bit of it on YouTube. So if I'm not able to attend, it'd be cool to see your talk and get some more clinical tips at that talk and try and improve my skill. So last question I have, just like a quick workflow thing just for myself since I have you here. So after you place like an immediate denture, what's like your protocol afterwards? Like, do you do like a chair side reline like after a few months and then send it back to a lab for like a hard reline, or like what's that general steps like afterwards?
I like to wait as long as possible. So we'll see them a couple days after the surgery and make sure there aren't, any major irritation spots or anything. Make sure they don't have a dry socket. And then we'll actually let them wear them for a few months until they get really loose. And then we'll do a chairside reline with the soft lining material. And I've tried everything. And there's some difficult ones to work with, and there's some really good ones to work with. But you just kind of have to see what works best in your hands. And we'll do that. And then, give them another couple months. And once it gets loose again, we'll do another soft liner. And we can charge more for that and be real judicious about it. But we're pretty good to the patients, and it helps with word of mouth. So we'll do that for about a year or so. And then typically we'll just do a permanent reline, or I guess you could call it a rebase after a year. So I like to wait as long as possible. I kind of learned the hard way that, if you reline it too early and it gets loose, they're going to come back and be frustrated. So now I would prefer to keep them in a soft liner as long as possible. And then at some point, reline the inside or the intaglio.
Okay. So so you can do multiple soft relines. Do you take off the old one, or you just kind of do it on top of the old soft reline?
We take off the old one, and our assistants are really good at doing it. So we try to work with them on that and make sure that they get really good at doing the reline. So we take everything out and dig it out in the lab, and then just put a whole new one in. So it's a process, but I think it gives me more time with the patients, and it really helps me kind of guide them through the process. Because, like I said, communication and patient management skills are 99% of dentures. And I think that's where I can really help guys, is teaching, or especially young guys like yourself, is teaching them the communication and the patient management side of it. And the clinical side, that's pretty easy stuff, and I can definitely teach that. But learning how to manage expectations and communicate and, work with problem patients is definitely where I see my future.
Yeah.
So
Do you have
excited.
any like CE courses that you might be running yourself or have been running that people can check out? Or
Yeah, we looked into it with a couple of really good prosthodontists, and I'll send you their links. They're doing a couple conferences, but I can't make it, unfortunately, because like I said, we've got 4 kids and multiple practices, so very busy right now. But yeah, hopefully down the road I can do something like that, but there's just not enough time in the day right now.
You're in your growth phase right now, so it's going to be busy times.
Yeah, exactly. Like I want to start teaching in my growth phase, so that's the hard part. But we got to find. We're starting to find some older docs who have worked for some of these bigger corporations that don't necessarily want to own their own practice, and that have gotten tired of working in a corporate environment, because it's not for everyone. So they're kind of starting to find us now. So it's been really, really helpful.
That's awesome. And so if I do have a fair few listeners, like in the US, are starting to. Because I started off as like a lonely Canadian podcast, and now I'm getting some traction down south. So if people want to reach out to you, if there's any dental students who are listening, or new grads that are interested in dentures and are maybe looking into finding an associateship position with you, with your new offices opening up, what's the best way of them to reach out to you?
You can send me a message on Instagram or just email me. I'll send you my email and just shoot me an email. And we're definitely open to older doctors too, who want to slow down maybe and work part time and are looking to get rid of denture type of practice. That's definitely something we'd be interested in as well. But I can, since you're a newbie, it's in your name. I can definitely help some of the newbies out, I think, on the teaching side.
Yeah.
But if they've done dentures and are really good with extractions, have them send me a resume. I'd love to.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I will definitely, I'll post that up when the episode's ready to go. Thanks, Ryan McCall, for coming on your lunch break. I know you got a busy day, 4 kids, 4 practices and growing. Sure. So I and a popular social media account. So thanks again for coming on. It was a lot of, good information. Like I mentioned, I'm trying to condense the episodes a little bit, so it's a little bit more
sure. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Friendly for the.
And if you have any, that's a genius idea. If you have any denture questions or anything at all, just send me an Instagram message, and I'd be happy to help you with some cases.
For sure, I really appreciate it.
I've done over 10,000 dentures now. So,
I think I've done 5.
And have all your listeners too. It's not a race.
Yeah, I don't think I've. Yeah,
you'll get there.
It's funny. I had a patient ask me. I was doing something. I forget. It was like a filling or something, and like, it's one of those patients. Can you say you've done this like 1,000 times? And I was like, I don't think I've done anything like 1,000 times yet. So we'll get there.
The best response when you're young, the best response is like to tell me you have the textbook in the back and make a joke out of it. Because you're gonna get that a lot. Like, you look young, and just enjoy yourself. Exactly. And I think that's the key, is to have a good time and to make sure that your patient has the best experience possible, no matter what you do. If you do restorative, or if you do full mouth rehab, or if you do dentures, just take your time with the patients to make sure that they have a good experience, because that's how you're going to grow your practice and get word of mouth referrals, which are by far the best way to do it. So awesome. Good luck with everything, man. Thanks for having me on.
Hopefully we'll connect and we'll do another one sometime down the line.
Sounds good. Good luck with everything.
Take care.